Alright guys, welcome back to another Be Strong pod solo again. Today I will be fielding all of the Q&As that you guys have sent me in. So firstly, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I look and sound like deaf. I've been very poorly, as you can probably tell. So yeah, you're just going to have to put up with me looking like roadkill for this pod. Good news is I'm not going to post this video because I'm not going to subject you to that. But if you are one of those people that likes like the sick husky voice, the audio of this will go up on the usual channels, so you can listen back. So obviously, thank you firstly to everyone that sent in questions for me to tackle for this one. I hope you're all enjoying the lead up to Christmas. I've got tonight and tomorrow left at the gym, and then I am done heading down south with the family to see my family, spend Christmas down there with them, which I'm very excited for because my family, they don't do things by halves when it comes to Christmas. It's going to be very exciting for Rowan because it's really the first Christmas where he kind of has a full understanding of what's going on. Last year he kind of got the idea, but he then expected the presents every time someone came to visit him, whereas now I think he realizes that it's presents on Christmas Day, so the day itself will be a bit more special. So to get into these questions that you guys have sent me, some good ones as always. The first one that I think needs to be tackled and addressed first, welcome aboard. Who won the escape room? So for those of you that don't know, the Grapplers, we had our Christmas party the weekend just gone, and we started off doing an escape room, the Great Escape in Leeds. Really good fun. 12 of us went there, and then more of us came out afterwards for some pretty heavy drinking. What we ended up doing when we got to the escape room was we split into two teams. It was 6 versus 6, and it ended up boys versus girls. And long story short, the girls absolutely smoked us. They got out of the room, I'm going to say about 11 minutes before we did. Now, this was surprising because looking at the levels of autism in the groups, we thought that the boys were more autistic and also more nerdy in general, but the girls just battered us and got out of the room. Morning! And they escaped the room. It was probably the most deflating moment when we were starting to make some headway, and all of a sudden we hear all this commotion from the other room, and everyone was, we kind of lost track of things. We were like, they can't be out already, like surely. Then the commotion got louder, and then we could hear them just outside of our little hub gloating, and it took the wind out of our sails because we knew then that we'd lost. And sure enough, when we got out of the room, they were there just mocking us. But fair's fair, we both, we had the same puzzles to solve. They just beat us to it. Now, you could place blame on certain members of the team, but I'm not going to do that. But if on the next promotion you feel like I whip you extra hard, then you know that's because I hold you responsible for the group losing the escape room. The first serious question that we got, how to learn and develop when you're old and pretty stupid. So when it comes to jiu-jitsu, right, it is harder to develop when you're older because you're more set in your movement patterns, and you're not as malleable. And that's the same with any task, really. Like, it's always a bit harder to learn something as you're older, but it's not impossible to. In terms of pretty stupid, I don't think that makes a huge difference because I know some pretty stupid people that are very good at jiu-jitsu. I think it's just finding a way that things kind of gel with you. So people take on information in different ways. You might find that you have certain ways of retaining information more effectively than other ways. So for me, for example, I find it much easier to watch, do. You know, that tends to be my cycle. But it's more the act of doing it where I learn, right? Actively participating. Some people will much prefer just to watch or to read or, you know, to visualize. It's about finding what works for you, you know, and only you know that. So I would recommend trying different things in terms of like what helps you maintain the knowledge. It might be that if you stay too long on one thing, that your attention just wanders off and you don't retain it. So it might be that you need to break things down into smaller, more manageable chunks. Or it might be that it takes longer for you to maintain something, and spending longer on something may yield more benefit. In truth, like only you would know that. My advice would be to try various methodologies and see which kind of sticks best for you. Who would win, 1,000 duck-sized horses or 1 horse-sized duck? I've got to go with 1,000 on this one. I think 1,000 is a proper swarm, and I think 1,000 anything can pretty much overwhelm one solo being, you know. Now, a horse-sized duck is no joke, you know. That's a pretty fucking big duck. But 1,000 little horses, that would be like, you know, one of those death by 1,000 cuts. Like, I just don't think you can. I don't think one giant duck can fight off 1,000 little horses. If it's 100, I'd probably go with the big duck, you know. But 1,000, I can't see him. I can't see him holding out, if I'm honest. Favorite movie. So, favorite movie is probably The Last Samurai. It is the film I have seen the most. Like, it's actually a running joke with me and my best friend, like how many times we've watched that film. We saw it together with our other best friend in the cinema. I believe it was actually the last film that we all watched together in the cinema. And since then, I've probably watched the film maybe 30 times, 40 times, couldn't even tell you. And we piss off our other mates. Like, whenever he comes up to visit, we put it on and then just like send them a video of us watching it. They're like, you guys have fucking issues the amount of times you've watched this film. And I don't know what it is about that film that grabbed us, but when we first watched it in the cinema, it was we found it like one of the more moving films that we'd watched. It kind of just really captured us. And it's one of those films that still managed to do that even after we've seen it. You know, like I said, we've watched it a number of times since then, and it still has that effect on us. So yeah, that's definitely going to be up there for my favourite film. Has achieving a black belt shifted or otherwise impacted your motivation around training? Truthfully, no. It was a milestone, obviously, and a hugely important one in my own development, but the motivation to train was never really focused around reaching that milestone. It's more a part of the journey rather than the end of the journey itself, you know. So motivation to train hasn't increased or decreased since getting it. If anything, I've noticed that the lower belts are trying to kill me a little bit more now. This is what my coach told me. He said, watch your back, all the lower belts are going to be out for your blood now. That has proven true. Everyone wants to get me now. But that's just part of it, you know. It's how I was, obviously, when people I knew got their black belt, I would always try and chase them. So it's nice to be part of that cycle. And it's one of those things that, obviously, getting older, there's a ceiling to how much more I'll improve before my physical ability starts to drop. And obviously they all start catching me up. So I've got to hold the fort for the time being, and put them through their paces, which I'm enjoying doing, and I enjoy them all bringing the heat. It's like I say, no, it hasn't changed or impacted my motivation, but it is something that was, hugely important for me to achieve, because like I said, when I got it, when I started jiu-jitsu, there wasn't a single English black belt, so it just seemed like a distant dream, that I would ever get there. So yeah, fast forward like 20 years to have one myself, hugely important, but not a massive impact on my willingness to train or anything like that. Best advice for a white belt 3 months in: keep showing up. That is the best advice I can give you, right? Because 3 months in, people are probably going to be chewing you up. That's just part of it. You will get nice training partners that won't just absolutely steamroll you. But the truth is, 3 months in, you're going to be the nail more often than you're the hammer. Keep showing up. Just keep showing up and keep showing up, and you'll start to notice that you start catching people, and then you start catching more people, and less people start catching you, and you won't really notice it immediately, but the improvement will be there, and one day it will come into focus when you'll find someone that would usually absolutely steamroll you is struggling more with you, or someone new shows up and you can do whatever you want to them. My advice is simple: just keep showing up, because at the end of the day, natural ability will get you so far, but the truth is, it's more about consistency. That is the ultimate variable. It's the most important thing. It's the old adage that hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. What career would you have gotten into without combat sports? And this one's a pretty hard one to answer, right? Because any real job I've had has kind of been built around combat sports to enable me to do them. So I couldn't really give you a proper answer to that. So I've done various things. I've worked in telesales. That was pretty horrific. Didn't enjoy that. Worked in insurance. Insurance was probably the longest career that I had, but that was specifically around the fight career. I went into that, so I wouldn't say it would be the career that I would have ended up in if it wasn't fighting. I probably would have found something that I gravitated more towards. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe journalism, maybe writing. I quite like writing. But thankfully, combat sports found me, so I never had to figure out what I wanted to do with a real job, so to speak. General advice for white belts when it comes to avoiding injuries. Okay, white belts, I'm sorry to break this one to you, but you are a bigger injury risk to everyone else than they are to you. Sorry, but it's true. It's more that white belts will injure white belts, or white belts will injure other belts, or white belts will injure themselves. And when I say white belts will injure themselves, there's generally two ways they will do it. The first is they will be caught in something and they will throw themselves in a random direction and hurt themselves, which happens quite a lot. So obviously I've had to let go of various submissions that I've grabbed on a white belt because they've thrown themselves very explosively in the wrong direction, and had I not have let go, they would have broken something. Now obviously, being a more experienced guy, I could see that coming. However, someone with less experience might not have noticed that, and then you have an injured white belt on your hands. In my opinion, the most common injury that a white belt gets is due to stubbornness and the reluctance to tap. Now, this is like a running joke in our club, and I'm not going to name and shame, but there are certain people that we say you never see them tap, you just hear them tap. So they'll be rolling, and all of a sudden you will just hear "ah" from one side of the room, and you will hear that maybe 10 times in an open mat session. If every single tap you do is a verbal tap, you're waiting far too long to tap. And the truth is, right, yes, I get that obviously you don't want to tap, but this is an open mat, it's not the Mundials, it's not ADCC, and you have to weigh up, right, your willingness to be hurt against someone else's willingness to hurt you, right? It's your training partner might be nice and might not put something on and let you escape, right? Like, you could be caught in something that they could finish, and they might not just want to put the force through it because they know that you're going to be stubborn and not tap until you're hurt. But you can't guarantee that. You may end up with a training partner who has absolutely no qualm about hurting you, right? So the advice I would give to white belts is tap. If you're caught, just please tap. You know, if I'm hearing you tap more often than I'm seeing you tap, that's a you problem. That is not a training partner problem. So yeah, please just don't let yourself get broken, especially not on an open mat when you're surrounded by friends. You know, like I say, there's no prize money at open mat, so just don't do it. You know, it's not worth getting yourself injured. Yeah, I just no. How do you switch from rolling with someone that is 30 to 40 kilos heavier than you to then rolling with someone your weight or less without being too forceful? Or does that come with time? This is a pretty good question, right? The short answer would be yes, like that kind of comes with time, getting to know how much force to put into things, right? But obviously this has come from someone that has a little bit less experience, so it's a pretty valid question to ask. The way I would say it, right, is with someone 30 to 40 kilos heavier than you, you can be quite liberal with the amount of force you put through things in general. Obviously, I would still say put submissions on quite lightly, because even with 30 to 40 kilos of a weight disadvantage, a joint's a joint and it can dislocate and break like that. You know, it doesn't take much pressure through a joint, and I think that's something that people overlook. You know, they think like, okay, I'm small, so I can put a bit of force through this. The truth is, like 100 kilo person's ankle will break at roughly the same rate as someone who's like 70 kilos, you know. But outside of submissions themselves, you can put more force into, say, your pins, your guard passing, things like that, because like you don't have enough weight behind you to injure someone like that big generally with just your body weight, right? What I would say, when you're against someone your size, if you can overpower them, try not to, right? Because then you're forced to rely on your skill. Like in competition, 100% use all the physical attributes that you have, right? Use your strength, use your speed, use your flexibility, like use every physical advantage that you have. But in training is where you want to rely on developing the skills, right? The things that you can rely on when all physical attributes are even. So I would say that if you've got someone that's roughly your size and you're worried that you're going to be a bit too forceful with them, put yourself in a disadvantaged position to start with, so that you're not in a position to use your size and your strength. So I always say this to heavier people. If you're rolling with someone who's lighter than you, start from bottom, because it gives you the chance to work a position that you're not necessarily going to get the chance to be in that often, right? It's not often that someone that's like 110, 120 kilos is going to be put on their back, you know. So getting that opportunity to work from your back in training is a good thing. Now in competition, you might just be bulldozing for top position, and I would recommend it if you're that big. But if you've never worked from bottom, because you're doing that all day long in training, you're just bulldozing people, then what happens when you get someone your size in competition and they put you on your back? You know, then you're in a position that's completely alien to you, and you're not really gonna be in a position to do anything about it. And when you're in an unfamiliar position in a high stress environment like competition, you'll find yourself getting so much more tired than you think. You know, it's like competition, like the adrenaline in competition will make you more tired than you think anyway. And that's even if you're in a position that you're strong from and you're comfortable in. But if you're put in an uncomfortable position, it's so much worse. So my advice would be to play from bad positions, so that you're not able to exert the force, so you get used to conserving your energy and playing a game that you can use in competition, right? How was the Christmas party? Well, other than the girls absolutely battering us at the escape room, it was really good. Really had a wholesome, fun evening. You know, there's quite a lot of us out. We went to, I think it was Northern Market, I'm gonna say, to get some food and drinks. Ended up in Pop World for more drinks, and then I can't remember where else for more drinks. There was a lot of drinks. Rocked up home about 3 in the morning, and regretted the fact that I'd agreed to go and do an open mat at 9 in the morning, which I still went and did. Surprisingly grappled pretty well, considering I'm pretty sure I was still drunk. And then had another open mat at 11, and by the time I got through both of those open mats, I actually felt alright. I thought I would be dead, like, I'm not gonna lie, because it is the heaviest that I've drank. I don't drink that often, but I definitely made up for it that night. It was very heavy, and some absolute fiend started getting shots in, and obviously when shots come out, like, it triggers that little, like, ego part in the back of your brain, like, well, if they're all doing shots, I can do a shot. So obviously we were just throwing them back, and yeah, it was good. It was a really enjoyable night. And on a more personal note, there was 3 people that mentioned to me on that night that they had issues with, like, just their mental health and their mindset prior to joining our team, and they were telling me, like, how much of a positive thing, like, joining us has been for them, you know, like, just for their quality of life and like their own contentment. And obviously, for those of you that know me, you'll know that 2 of my closest friends committed suicide some time ago. So hearing this really, like, kind of hit home, because I spent a long time feeling like I couldn't do anything then, you know, but I feel like now in a position where it can make a difference now. So that was, you know, it really kind of made me feel proud of what we built, and what they all helped me build, you know, because this team started probably 8 of us in a tiny little basement in Beeston, to now I want to say we've got 50, 60 grapplers, something like that, and to know that it made that much of a difference to people, it was really nice, man. Like, it meant a lot to hear that, and I got a bit emotional, like, from people telling me that. Yeah, you know, it's nice. Like, there's there's a lot of benefits to doing the job that you're doing, and obviously getting paid is just one of the benefits, but knowing that you can literally help change the course of someone's life and improve their mental health and improve their happiness and possibly improve the trajectory that their life is going on, that's the real reward, so for those of you that mentioned that to me, I really appreciate it. It meant a lot to hear. And it made me feel positive about going into 2025. And in terms of 2025, so obviously we have now acquired a wrestling coach, which we're very excited to have a wrestling class on. I've taught my grapplers some wrestling before, but I'm a competent wrestler, but part of being a good coach is not trying to hog all of the glory. I realize where I can coach people well and where I can coach people adequately. And the truth is, I don't want my grapplers to have an adequate wrestling coach. I want to have a great wrestling coach. So for us to get Kate Hawthorne in, who is a fantastic wrestler and a great coach, I'm very excited to see how her wrestling class takes off. The first one was very well received, and in the new year it's going to be a regular slot on the timetable. We are still hashing out the timetable because, as is always the case, you cannot please everyone. So we announced the time, and then some people couldn't make it, and then this is what it's like trying to organize a gym. It is like trying to herd cats, but we're pretty sure we've settled on a time and a date now, and if anyone has a problem with it, I am literally going to slam my head through a desk because it took long enough to find that day, so please don't make me change it again. Outside of that, so today's Friday. Tomorrow morning is the final class that I'm teaching before Christmas. Then I'm back up between Christmas and New Year, and things are going to just pick up where they left off. So if you want a rumble, come on down tomorrow. Bearing in mind that I'm pretty poorly, I'm not going to touch anyone. I don't want to make anyone sick. I am just going to oversee some rounds. And tonight at Open Mat, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to film rounds and just break down how people are doing. So if you're one of those guys that's always saying to me like, "Oh, I'm struggling with this, and I can't seem to stop this happening. I can't seem to stop that happening," get your ass down to Open Mat tonight. I will film your rounds and I'll tell you why you can't stop this happening and why you can't stop that happening. It is one of my it's one of my gripes in terms of development, is people avoiding rolling, right? Because rolling is where you're going to make the biggest progress, and like you'll see it like a lot between rounds. It's people will take long breaks, so like getting water, and like they'll be the first off the mat and the last back on the mat. Now those people, bearing in mind that they've had the longest break, when they get back on the mat, all the rounds that they probably should be doing are going to be paired up, right? So the people they're left with are going to be the hard rounds that people are avoiding. And it's a vicious cycle, because then they'll be like, okay, I need a long rest, so they'll drag themselves off, they'll grab some water, they'll take longer, they'll come back on the mat, and lo and behold, the only person for them to roll with is that killer that they didn't want to roll with. Like, do the rounds, get on the mat quickly, pick like a sensible partner and do some rounds, but if you're avoiding rounds, and if you're the last one back on the mats, you're probably going to get a round that you don't want to do, and that's that's what's going to hinder your development, right? Because you're going to get smashed in that round, and then you're not going to want to do the next one, so you're going to take longer to get back on the mat. Then it's going to be another murderer waiting for you, and you're probably going to get smashed in that one as well. Whereas all the people that are around your level and your weight, they're on the mat pretty quickly, getting paired up with a sensible round that they're going to develop with. And the reason you're missing out is because you're taking 20 minutes getting your water, you know. So, yeah, get in, do the rounds, don't skip the rounds. That's how you're going to get better, you know. And yeah, it can be daunting, but the truth is, like, the longer you avoid it, the more daunting it gets. And you're in a cycle, right? And you have to break that cycle. And any cycle is difficult to break, but it all changes with action, right? Like, you have to take an action to break the cycle, and the action is just showing up and doing the rounds. Like, if you don't do that, it's never going to get any easier for you. Ooh, that coffee has gone cold now, but I still find that cold coffee is better than no coffee. And for those of you that haven't seen, like, possibly the greatest mug in the history of the world, yeah, every coffee forever will be drank from that cup for the rest of time. Also, for a surprisingly organised turn of events, I've actually finished my Christmas shopping, which means I can put my feet up and relax without any last minute rushing around. Now I just obviously need to resist the temptation to buy useless things until after Christmas, because you never know what you're going to get at Christmas. And knowing my luck, I will just be like, oh, I'll go and get this, and end up with doubles of everything. So I'm going to save my loot bag, probably buy a shitload of booze over Christmas. Oh yeah, also, do not recommend, but whatever this virus is that I've had for the last few days, probably since Monday night, started to come on like Tuesday morning. It's to the point where I've been so wiped out, I've just been falling asleep and not eating anything. I've lost like 4 kilos. Wouldn't recommend it as a weight loss thing, but if it works, it works, you know. So at least it gives me a little bit of extra Christmas weight to put back on. So yeah, that'll be exciting at least. And obviously, you can pick up the background noise. Sounds like a party happening out there. Some Ricky Martin, I want to say, or Enrique. I get them two mixed up. Pretty much the same. That is Ricky Martin, I think. Same dude, pretty much. Same shit. But yeah, it's Friday vibes at the gym. I'm gonna pick up Rowan in like an hour and a bit. Take him home, then come back to oversee open mat, watch people beat each other up while I feel sorry for myself. Tomorrow is AVT's annual Kumite, which I am looking forward to. It's always great fun. AVT's Kumites, you know, they for anyone that hasn't been to one, they'll take all the white belts, open weight, or they divide them up, over 80 kilos, under 80 kilos, and they'll just all fight in a knockouts tournament. The winner usually gets a blue belt, and often anyone that has like standout performance, so potentially not a winner but someone that done like incredibly well in the tournament, might also get promoted. They'll do the same for blue belts, sometimes for purple belts, and they've had brown belt kumites to the black belt. So rumor has it there's going to be some high level promotions going out tomorrow, so I shall be going down there ready to whip people, because I remember how hard everyone whipped me when I got my last belt. So I am coming back for blood. I need to give some of that pain back to the world, you know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully some of my crew will be coming down. it'd be pretty good if some of them come down and actually jumped in the Kumite just to have a little rumble, you know. You never know, they might do. But hopefully we'll get a few of them down there just because it's a really good day. And obviously ABT is kind of like the hub for combat base at the minute. It's I believe the biggest one in terms of members at the moment, and it's obviously it's my home gym. Even though I can generally only get over there like once a week, most of my training is done with ABT training partners. So like all of my hard rounds are the ABT crew, so they are responsible for all of my development. So it's always good to go back and see the next in line to get promoted. Outside of that was all the questions that were sent in. So thanks guys for shooting those over. I'm going to go and fill up my coffee so it's no longer freezing cold iced coffee, because that is not great when you're feeling a bit poorly. Appreciate you jumping in. Obviously this one's not going to be saved on the feed because you don't need to be looking at this poorly face for the foreseeable. But I am going to put the audio up. It's going to be on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That'll probably go up this afternoon. Usually takes like an hour or so before, once I upload it, for it to carry over, so keep an eye out for that. Like and subscribe, because obviously that helps boost the algorithm and it gives much more likelihood that someone will just give me free shit to promote in order to have their name on the pod. So do that please, because I like free swag. Oh yeah, also super exciting, we're getting some custom gear made by Adapt in January. We're going to put the order in. Already had great feedback on it, so I'm super excited for that. So yeah, I'll share that on the stories as well, so you can see it looks pretty crisp. Looking forward to getting that in. Alright guys, cheers for jumping in. I'll see you all on the other side. Merry Christmas to everyone. Hope you have a good one, and have a good weekend until then. See you later folks.